Thanksgiving in the time of COVID. New York City's got checkpoints set up. California goes into full-on lockdown. Plus, Joe Biden wants to end America first. Trump is set to pardon General Flynn. And woke staffers at Simon & Schuster start crying. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. Yes, Thanksgiving is just a day away. And you are to be very afraid. You are to be terrified. You're not supposed to see family members. Stay at home. If you don't do this, the people in charge are telling you you don't care about your loved ones. This is quite a period in our history, isn't it? Never really thought that we'd reach a point where the government would have to be told that they can't tell you to do absolutely anything, that there are some limits as they set up checkpoints and enforce testing and have these rolling lockdowns and on-the-spot quarantines. This stuff is completely nuts, friends. And I understand the death rate now is high from COVID. I understand that there's a spike in cases. We've been getting ready for this for months. We've known that there was this possibility. How many times have you heard about the so-called second wave? But they're telling you to sacrifice Thanksgiving. Why just Thanksgiving? Notice that this is their latest thing. This is the panic of the moment. Let's give up this one day. Thanksgiving is now 15 days to slow the spread, but it's just one day. We're going into a winter here where it's going to be months of this. Everyone needs to understand there's going to be at least 90 days here where there's not enough of the vaccine out there, even if it gets distributed in December, to really control the virus in a meaningful way. And so it's not really about just one day. It's about many days. It's about they're going to say it this one time, because when you don't do what they tell you, they're going to tell you that it's your fault, and that's why there's these cases. It could have all gone away, but you didn't listen to Fauci when it came to Thanksgiving travel. You've got 6.3 million Americans that are currently flying, 48 million driving in cars, 350,000 estimated to be traveling by train for the holidays. So yes, there's transit all over the country that is going on right now. But the cases have been spiking for weeks and weeks. We're ahead of Thanksgiving, and the cases are going nowhere but up, despite the lockdowns, despite the mask mandates, despite the fact that we're doing more testing than ever before. Remember when if we just were testing more, it was all Trump's fault? If we did more testing, everything would have been so much better. And I kept saying, what does testing do other than give you a sense of whether you yourself are sick at a point in time? First of all, testing is not perfect, as you know, but beyond that, it doesn't stop the virus from spreading. It's not, oh, we tested this person, we got it. That was back in the old test and trace days when they were going to find out everyone who has COVID and everyone they've talked to and quarantine all of them. And think about the delusions of control that go into that. Think about this prospect that the government was going to be able to track, hundreds of thousands of people, every physical contact they have. And once they've tracked them, what do they do then? Tell everybody, don't go out, don't go to the store, don't see anyone. You're going to quarantine too. It doesn't work. It's not working. I mean, am I saying anything that's not self-evident? Is there anything here that I'm seeing that everyone else is not seeing? And you think that it would be done after Thanksgiving? You think that when we got to Christmas, they'd say, you know what? Take precautions. This virus is going to spread. We can't stop it, but enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your Hanukkah, enjoy the holidays. You think they'd say that? No, of course not. This is what I mean by it's 15 days to slow the spread all over again, except the one day is Thanksgiving. It's this one time. That's what they're pretending, at least. We know that's not true. We know that next week they're still going to be saying, wear that mask and don't go anywhere and don't see anyone. And you can't run a society this way. Right? The little petty totalitarians that think that they can just give orders and dictates and that people are all going to obey. There aren't enough cops. There aren't enough agents of the state, public health bureaucrats. They can't do this, even if they wanted to, because human behavior is not going to entirely change. We're not going to freeze society in place. I know they like that term more than lockdown now, because lockdown does bring up ideas of prison, because that's where the term comes from. And people realize that that's something you do to punish people, right? So we're all being punished because there's an aerosolized virus that 999 people out of 1,000 who will survive. That's where we are. Now, I understand that still means in a country of 330 million people, there are a lot of folks out there who are at risk from this. But they're going to be at risk no matter what the government says, no matter what Fauci says. This is the part that they won't tell you. This is the part that they won't discuss out loud. They pretend, oh, don't worry, we've got this. This is the illusion of state control. They cannot protect you from this. It is most likely that individuals will get this from a family member, and that family member may get it completely innocuously by just going about their lives and being around other human beings. You cannot be fully protected from this. You know what's really important to protect yourself, actually? And they never discuss this. Although it does appear in some of the very boilerplate health propaganda I see, posters at the office. I'm going into an office every day. I'm around people. Yes, I'm in cars. I'm going to places where there are other human beings, and there is the possibility that I could get sick. I understand that. And there's no guarantee that if I get sick, I'll beat it, or that I won't have long COVID or whatever they're calling it now when it extends. I get all this. But I'm not going to hide in my room until Dr. Fauci tells me that it's safe to come out. I'm not going to do that. There is no perfect safety from a virus, just like there's no perfect security when we were all concerned about terrorism in the wake of 9/11, right? Remember that? You're seeing some similar themes play out here. The government taking more and more power into its hands and, yes, violating the Constitution, doing things it should not be able to do. But we were scared, and we faced what we thought was an existential threat, so we allowed for that overreach. But eventually, you'll notice, we realized it wasn't necessary, and we pushed back, and we got rid of some, but certainly not all, perhaps even not even a majority of the government overreach that resulted from that. Right? We understand that this is the natural inclination of a state authority. It's going to say, do what we tell you, and we'll make everything better. Have you felt like that's happened during this period? Are you going to listen to the public health experts that are shutting down California outdoor dining? Why? They're just punishing people, don't you see? That's the step they take because what they've told the people of California to do before didn't work. So what do? Go to a more extreme level to make it seem like they're doing something. And then when people don't adhere to this perfectly, which they will not, they'll say, well, we could have saved all of you, but you didn't listen. The alternative to this, understand, is that there are a lot of people whose jobs are in public health. Jobs are supposed to mean that they come up with ideas to save so many lives here. And they have to admit, we've completely botched this whole thing. We didn't see it coming. We didn't prepare adequately. We didn't know what to do in the early days, in the early months. We've locked down when it wasn't a good idea, when it was already spreading all over the place and it was too late. We tried test and trace far too deep into the game. Wasn't going to do anything. Wasn't going to turn it around. Florida doesn't have a mask mandate. Florida doesn't have a lockdown right now the way that other states do. And I see reporting on it that says Florida's cases are spiking. See, Florida doesn't have a mask mandate and its cases are spiking. Well, other major states of similar population are spiking much more than Florida. But they leave that out because people just want to believe that they're right. People just want to believe that what they thought, because they're smart, they really think about this stuff. What they've thought in the past has been verified by the information, by the facts as it plays out. You can stay home for Thanksgiving if you want. That's your right. That is your liberty. You can make that choice. You can not see anyone. You can stay home. The human beings, we can last much longer than we realize with just, if we got fresh water and, you don't even need much in the way of calories, right? So if you don't want to leave your home for a couple of weeks, I probably should not eat for a week or two. I'd really trim down quickly. There's plenty of ways you could avoid human contact if you chose to do so. But, intermittent fasting style, right? You avoid eating for 4 or 5 days. Don't go to the grocery store. Stay away from everybody on Thanksgiving. But I'm trying to get everyone to think about this in terms of what's already happened and what's going to happen after this. Do you think that if you just stay home for Thanksgiving, you're safe from this? Do you think that if you just stay home from Thanksgiving, they're not going to tell you next week or next month Get ready to not see all your loved ones during Christmas. There are a lot of people, if you look at annual mortality rates, there are a lot of people for whom this will be their last Christmas in America. That's the truth. There are a lot of people for whom this may be their last Thanksgiving because they're at that phase in life where we are all heading. We are all united in this one thing, and that we will not live forever. Should they be allowed to make decisions? I just spoke to a friend who was telling me that his mother's desperately ill in the hospital. It has nothing to do with COVID, but not allowed to go see her because of COVID. Can't go see her. Can't visit his own mother in the hospital because of COVID restrictions. What? She doesn't have COVID. Sorry, not allowed. At what point do we look at the inhumanity of some of these decisions? And remember, they were making you, the same people that are now telling you, stay home, don't go out for Thanksgiving, they were making Americans say goodbye to loved ones via Zoom, couldn't go to the hospital and see them. Sorry, rules are rules. But they didn't have a lot to say, those same public health authority, those same organs of the state didn't have much to say when BLM was running around by the thousands and thousands, packed together, shouting and screaming and protesting all over the place, right? That was necessary for public health, they told us. I haven't forgotten that. I'm never going to forget that because they're frauds. They're frauds. How do you think tyranny comes about? Do you think tyranny comes about because people just wake up one day and say, I don't want to have any freedom. I don't want to be able to make any of my own choices? No, there's always some opportunity that's seized upon. There's a reason that people are angry or they're scared or they're vengeful. There's a reason that a society is able to succumb to that. And it's because of an external enemy usually, or it's because of internal enemies, right? It's because of some alleged fifth column inside of a society. In this case, the fifth column is the virus, or in this case, the invisible enemy that we face is the one that's allowed for so much overreach and unconstitutional mandates and lockdowns. They act like they're so clever. There's nothing that says that you can't mandate a mask in state government. And we look at them and say, yeah, there's just not being crazy. There's just understanding that government can't mandate that you do. There's no prohibition on everyone having to do 100 push-ups every morning. I mean, the government could pass a mandate that says that, but we expect they won't. That's our reasonable person expectation of government. But even if they want to play that game, I would say, what about prohibitions on gathering for religious ceremonies, for funerals, for weddings? That's in the Constitution. What state government thinks it's allowed to override that? On what basis? These are extreme infringements upon constitutional liberty. That's what's going on. I'm sorry that there is a terrible virus out there and that a lot of people are scared and a lot of people are getting sick. It is no one's fault. But liberty is not a suggestion. This isn't something that we're supposed to just let slip through our fingers because things are tough right now. Freedom isn't free, my friends, and right now we are paying quite a price for it. And we can either have it at the end, or we can accept that the state can take it from us on a whim. Those are your choices. That, and I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and you better pray this crime never happens to you because it goes after your most valuable asset, your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys, cyber thieves, they find your home's title online because it's stored in the cloud and on servers. So then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on, and then they start taking out loans against the equity in your home. You often won't find out about this until you receive the payment demands in the mail, perhaps even a foreclosure notice. The usual identity theft services do not protect you. You have to go with the experts I trust at Home Title Lock. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code RADIO, and you'll get 30 free days of protection. You can also check at HomeTitleLock.com to see if you're a victim of this crime already, but don't know it yet. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO. That will get you 30 free days of protection for your home's title. Create a virtual barrier around it right now at HomeTitleLock.com.
For the last few days, we've had a steady increase in the number of cases. There is no question that patients are coming into the hospital. They're coming in sicker, and they're coming in sicker because, they're waiting longer to come to the hospital. They're tired of corona. They have what I call the corona fatigue syndrome. Everybody's tired of corona, so they wait longer. Unfortunately, my concerns for the next 6 to 12 weeks is that if we don't do things right, America is going to see the darkest days in modern American medical history. We're having a largest number of patients. We have been helping the people from El Paso, so we've been getting a lot of patients being flown in to our hospital. My hospital is full. I just opened 2 new wings so that I can accommodate for the next few days, because I know that a lot of people are going to get sick after Thanksgiving.
Okay. We've heard a lot of this before, and I think it's interesting here that was a doctor on CNN, and he's telling you a few points that look, he's a doctor, I'm not, but let's just look at what he says as people that can listen and come to their own conclusions. If we don't do the right thing, we're going to be in the darkest days here of medical history in America. That's what he's saying, or at least modern America. Yeah, it's obvious this is nowhere near as bad as the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, despite what the media says. It's not even close. We have a much smaller population. That fatality rate was an order of magnitude or two more rather than what we have right now. So now let's get to what he says. If we don't do the right thing, then we're going to be in this very bad place. Have we not been doing the right thing? I just want to know. All of the evidence suggests that we're doing all this stuff. We've been doing all the stuff that the doctors have been telling us. Wear that mask, social distance, wear that mask everywhere you go. It's like living in a COVID-obsessed North Korea. I can't stand in my elevator without seeing the little foot pads on the floor. I'm serious. There are foot pads that show you how far apart to stand in an elevator. I'm sorry, I don't usually stand so close to somebody that I can Biden sniff their neck. I don't need to be told this, but it's everywhere. Wash your hands, social distance, wash your hands, mask up, social. We've been doing this. And yet here we are. It's before Thanksgiving. So there can be no talk about how Thanksgiving already has been the big keynote of transmission. We're before Thanksgiving, and they're telling us if we don't do the right thing, then it's going to get really bad. I'm here to tell you that it's going to probably get really bad either way. And they're never going to admit that doing the right thing is at this point an absurd statement, because what have we been doing? How many more masks can you wear? You can go back, you can check on my Twitter before they start banning me for being one of the only people that will talk about this stuff honestly. There are others. I was just texting with Alex Berenson last night and talking to him about his new book that's coming out. We'll have him on the show soon. Jesse Kelly has been rock solid on this issue. There are others. There are people who will speak about this just as non-brainwashed individuals. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I know what's not true. I know what's not real. And we're supposed to ignore so much of that. And that's why I know there's a problem here. That's why I know there's an issue. They act like if we don't listen to them on this one thing, it's our fault. What does that even mean? It's our fault in what way? We're just trying to live our lives. We didn't appoint any group of MDs, Fauci or otherwise, America's COVID dictators. That's not what we signed up for. There's no clause in the Constitution that says that you have all these liberties and government shall not transgress, shall not trespass upon them, unless Dr. Fauci says it's going to be like a really bad Thanksgiving, Then all of a sudden your rights go away. No, that's not the way that it works. So they're already telling you, and you can check on my Twitter, that what I was saying maybe a couple of months ago, that you need to wear better masks. That's the problem. Dr. Scott Gottlieb, former FDA chairman, big MD that's constantly cited in the news, he just said it a couple of days ago. Got to wear better masks. You see, that's the problem. Oh, gee, that wasn't predict. Oh, no, that's right. I did predict that.
This morning we have over 88,000 people in this country hospitalized with COVID. That number is growing rapidly. Every place is like Minnesota, and Minnesota is like every place. That's what we have to understand right now, is that people have to take this seriously. And I have to tell you, I think many of us in this business who are pretty hardened public health officials have cried more tears collectively over the past weeks, talking to, working with, trying to support our frontline healthcare workers who have been heroes, who at this point are trying to pull as many 16-hour shifts a week as they can because we're so short-staffed. The public has to understand that. There may be beds, there may be rooms, but there won't be the doctors and nurses to take care of you. And then we're going to see the death rate go up substantially. Please take this seriously. Don't swap air at this point. That's the key message we can get across.
Why don't they just say, let's do 15 days to slow the spread again if hospital capacity is at risk? I mean this, ask yourself that question. If we're really going to have no doctors, that was a Biden advisor on COVID, Michael Osterholm. There's so much about this that I find offensive, honestly. Are the people who are getting sick, did they not take it seriously? Is that now the new line from the lockdowners? You didn't. It's your fault. You didn't take it seriously. I mean, there are other politicians who have said as much. You know, the stuff that the Democrats were saying about anyone who they think got sick at a Trump rally, for example, was horrific. It's their fault, right? Well, is it everyone who's getting sick now? Is it their fault? That's what these psychopaths seem to be saying. And this Osterholm guy, we've heard all this before. It sounds, they're revving this up so that it sounds like they did in the middle of March. That's what we're heading back to right now. They're saying the most COVID deaths since May. But remember, May was when the numbers started dropping precipitously across the country. So, but they're saying that this is now threatening to overwhelm hospitals, that you may not be able to get care. And if that's true, I just want to know, why aren't we currently being told that we have to just shut everything down for 15 days? Because people like me would say, hold on a second. We did that before, and did it work? It did not. Remember 15 days to slow the spread? First of all, the hospitals were never actually overwhelmed. This doctor that I had the soundbite on from before, Osterholm, says that his hospital is full. He had to open 2 new wings. Well, no, what that is that hospitals keep an expansion capacity. They're not trying to operate. They don't keep 100 empty ICU beds staffed and ready at all times in hospitals, right? They keep whatever they think they'll need for that period of time, and they have a capacity to staff up and expand when needed. So when he says my hospital is full, what he means is that my usual level of staffing is insufficient for this particular hospital's needs. Hence his statement. I mean, just go with what he said. We had to open 2 new wings. Okay. Yes, we have both the flu is apparently gone. I haven't seen any stories at all on the flu. We're in flu season. Have you seen anything about the flu? I haven't seen anything about the flu. I'm not saying COVID is a flu. I'm just pointing out there's probably a couple of reasons why hospitals are seeing this influx right now, but it's all being pushed on COVID. And yes, fact, the flu kills tens of thousands of Americans every single year. You know, I've been alive for 38 years, and the flu has killed tens of thousands of Americans every single year of my life. And in some cases, more like 60 to 100,000. But in a particularly bad year, right now, I'm just noticing that there's no talk about this at all. It's only COVID that we're blaming for all of the surge in hospitals. And I'm sure it is a majority of it and everything else. I'm not trying to get beyond where the facts or where the truth is on this. I'm just saying there's a narrative that's being formed here. And it's more than just based upon the facts and data that come in. Right? Why not go with 15 days to slow the spread at this point? Why not? Why not tell us that's, if they're really worried that hospitals are going to be overwhelmed, go with a full-on shelter-in-place order. California, it has got lockdown orders in place as of tonight or as of today. And I can tell you this much right now, they're still going to have cases when they come out of this. It's not really going to stop anything. The only real argument here would be We have to go into shutdown until the vaccine is in wide enough distribution. But people wouldn't go for that. They just wouldn't say, yeah, I'm gonna do a lockdown for 90 days. At least 90 days. They would say no. So what do the public health authorities keep doing? Just do this one thing. Just be responsible this one time. Keep your relatives alive one week longer by not seeing them this time. We promise at some point in the future, people they're just tired of this. They're tired of it. They don't want to live with the constant fear and the anxiety anymore. Other people, I suppose, have just become adapted to it, and they figure that this is the way to go, and they want to listen to the public health authorities. They want to listen to the doctors, and whatever they tell them, they'll do. Notice that some of the worst and dumbest people in our leadership class are the biggest purveyors of panic and fear over this. Here's New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, play 14.
Well, if I'm saying to people, and I'm going to talk about my family, but the first thing I'm saying to everyone is do not travel. Stay local. Keep it small. If you love people, if you love your extended family, help them stay alive so we can all celebrate together in person next year, because I really believe by next Thanksgiving we'll be in the kind of situation we can all come back together. So in my case, I would normally travel for Thanksgiving. I'm not going to. I'm going to be missing some of the people that are closest to me in the world that I would always see on Thanksgiving. I hate it, but I want to keep them safe.
That's right. If you see your family members, you're putting their lives at risk. That's what the message is. Now, keep in mind that for a lot of people, they're around their family every single day. I know this is a shock to coastal elites and people that watch CNN, but there are multi-generational families that exist where there are 6, 8, 10, maybe more people living in the same household. And they're still going out to the grocery store. They're showing up to their jobs. They're doing things. They're out there mixing. What are they going to do? Not live? Not engage in normal day-to-day activities that they need to for life? I mean, I know we can't be normal. We can't go to gyms and we got to wear masks. But I'm saying, are they really just supposed to stay in their room like we're all like we're teenagers who have been grounded? Is that the answer here? That's the best that these brilliant health authorities can come up with? Friends, if I thought this stuff would really work and would change the trajectory of this virus, I'd say, look, I was, to be fair, I thought 15 days to slow the spread. That argument made sense to me. And when the Trump team and the Trump White House was behind it, I figured, okay. I didn't like it when they extended it past Easter Sunday. Remember that? That was a big, I was saying, no. I think we gotta open things up now. This is crazy. We can't keep doing it. And then they extended it. And people forget now. The whole game is to make you think that you have your freedom back, but you really haven't this whole time. There have been all kinds of restrictions in place, especially in the big blue states. You haven't been able to go do normal activities. So understand that. They keep acting like, oh, we all just went back to life and now we're paying the price for it. No, I can't walk out I literally cannot leave my building, walk out my front door without wearing a mask unless I want to, deal with the wrath of the city health authorities and the Karens who live in my building. So, no, it is not normal. We have not been living normal life, and the cases are skyrocketing anyway. So what's their answer for this? I just want the government to stop being tyrannical, and I want people to be making their own choices and understand that there's no perfect security, there's no perfect safety, and we are all on borrowed time at some level. I mean, that doesn't mean you're reckless. It doesn't mean you forget that, as I've been saying, if you're sick, stay away from your relatives. Stay away from everybody. If you think you have a cold, don't assume it's a cold. Stay away from people. And I know they'd say, oh, but what about asymptomatic transmission? I know it's not a perfect world. But if we just had sick people that would know I'm sick and I'm going to stay away from people who are healthy, that would help a lot. I think, unfortunately, there are people who go, oh, I've just got a bad cough, but it's not. No, maybe it is COVID. So if you're sick, stay away from people. If you have a relative who's, in her 80s and has diabetes, or you have a great uncle who's in his late 70s and who's, severely overweight, yeah, Don't, give him a big hug and cover him in kisses this Thanksgiving. I mean, of course, we should act the way we would if we knew that there was, let's say, a really bad flu out there. We should take those similar precautions, but this is way beyond that. I knew that this would become the big fight and that Biden, and I know the transition's going on now. We'll be talking about that in a second. It wouldn't make all this go away. I knew that, but it's even more extreme in some ways than I anticipated. This lockdown mentality from the government. And they're going to do this stuff again. They're going to use these newly found powers for other purposes. You know it. So we can either have this fight now, or we can accept a future where we're all told where our feet can go in the elevator, in our office, or in our building, where our feet can go in the grocery store, like we're all a bunch of idiot children. That's what the government's doing to us. And has it worked? I just ask you that question. They've been doing this to us now for 8 months straight. Has it worked? I don't think so. Do you think that even though the journos are all convinced that Trump is finished as president, it's all over, and they may be right. I live in reality. It's not looking good right now. And people keep emailing me or sending messages to me. And look, a team, you can always reach out, ask me anything you want, and I always try to respond to you either on the show or for individual messages as much as I can. But there's no reason to believe right now that there's going to be some knockout blow from the legal team. We haven't seen it. It might happen, but we haven't seen it. And things are trending toward Biden. I hate saying it. I know. I don't want to say this stuff, but it's the way it is. It is the way it is. But there's not even a little bit of a let up here for, okay, so if they really believe Trump is a lame duck president, if he's a lame duck president, is he just allowed to pardon a turkey? Can you let the lame duck pardon a turkey without making it into some opportunity to shout about how Orange Man bad? Nope. The journos cannot do that. Play 2.
Pardons before leaving office. Will you be issuing a pardon for yourself?
Mr. President, you invite President-elect Biden.
Mr. President, are you issuing a pardon for yourself? Are you issuing a pardon for yourself? Right? He can't pardon the turkey without them saying, "Hey, Orange Man, bad criminal." Are you going to abuse your authority to make sure that we can't investigate and harass you afterwards? It is an interesting question because does Trump care what they think? No, he does not. And do I think there's a real possibility that when he leaves office, they will come after him with some kind of... Remember, they don't have to prove anything about illegal conduct from Trump to ruin his life, his family's lives. All they have to do is investigate you. What have we learned during Trump? The process is the punishment from the deep state. That was always a part of this. That's always been the reality that we were facing, that we were dealing with. The process is the punishment. We know that. We know that. So that's why I think it's interesting you have Matt Gaetz. Here he is on the president and possible pardons. Play 17.
President Trump should pardon Michael Flynn. He should pardon the Thanksgiving turkey. He should pardon everyone from himself to his administration officials to Joe Exotic if he has to, because you see from the radical left a bloodlust that will only be quenched if they come after the people who worked so hard to animate the Trump administration with the policies and the vigor and the effectiveness that delivered for the American people. And so I think that the president ought to wield that pardon power effectively and robustly.
There are reports out right now that President Trump is going to pardon General Flynn. And I understand the people who say, oh, he waited up to this point because he wanted Flynn to just beat it in court. But you see, this is where the process is the punishment. This is a perfect example of that, right? The Kafkaesque nightmare that they have put General Flynn through This was meant to be a warning to anybody who would support Trump. This was meant to be a warning. What happens when you step out of line and you challenge the political elites and the establishment? They will Flynn you. That was the whole point of this. And unfortunately, the message was successful in a sense, or at least their plot was successful, because why did this judge, Emmett Sullivan, why would Judge Sullivan keep extending and do this unprecedented lunatic stuff where he brings in someone else to argue as part of an amicus brief against the decision that the DOJ had taken? I mean, it's crazy. And this was all just to keep extending it out, because we all know that if they continue this into a Biden administration, you think he could count on a pardon then? Judge Sullivan could still just sentence him. He could still do that. He has that power. He could say, I take the guilty plea, I'm sentencing you now. And he doesn't even have to give him prison time, but he could say, yeah, you're a convicted felon now. You think that Joe Biden would pardon General Flynn? Even though it couldn't be any more obvious that this was a political hit. It was a political hit all along. But that's why they kept extending it out. Hope that maybe you get a Democrat who comes into office, and then you're just putting Flynn in the meat grinder, right? That's the idea here. These people are sick. I mean, they really have a problem. There's a lack of basic American to American fundamental human decency from leftists who have this, as Matt Gaetz called it bloodlust for General Flynn and others. They're really sick. I mean, there's something emotionally and psychologically damaged about them where they can't think to themselves, what is General Flynn's crime exactly? There was no crime. What did we put him through? Hell. What did he do for his country? Served it for 30 years. How is this justice? Oh, yeah, orange man bad. That's how it's justice. These people are lunatics.